Internet, welcome to another episode of Chai and Chill, the finale for season 1. Today I have with me my friend from college, the first entrepreneur that I knew personally, Shorodip Ghosh, but he's better known as Gogol, who started Gaia Studios. Okay, and before we begin, I have gone back to my roots, to my storyteller and cup.
Yes. I also have this particular cup today, which says happiness is a cup of coffee and a good book.
That is true, but it should be a cup of tea.
Ah. True, I'll edit that.
Okay. First things first, how did you end up starting Gaia Studios? And can you explain a little bit about what it does?
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, thank you so much for having me today. I've been watching a couple of episodes of the series, and I really love what you're trying to do, and so super excited for today. Coming back to your question, how did Gaia come about? So I was doing my fellowship, called Gandhi Fellowship in Mumbai, and after finishing the fellowship, I wanted to stay in the social impact sector. But being a Bong, I also spent quite a number of years in like trying to understand art. I spent a lot of time at Birla College of Arts, and so when I finished my fellowship, I wanted to work more in the social impact sector. I thought that why not make my this particular skill set that I have around creating art and design, and make that a service and give back to the social impact space in the form of a business. Like, can I be a service provider where I'm giving design solutions or things like that to the social impact? So that's how I decided that I'll start Gaia, so to speak. And then so that was the cue, essentially. So I started working with a lot of my peer group from the fellowship who were working at different organizations after finishing their fellowship, and so there were a lot of requirements around. They wanted to create some good school books and books for early grade reading and stuff like that. So that's how some of the early work started coming in, when we were designing a lot of illustrated books and picture story books for children. So those were the initial services that we started. I mean, eventually it kind of expanded to multiple other service verticals, but that was the intent.
That sounds very interesting. So, did you always plan on being your own boss, or did you think that, okay, I'll be my own boss, but I will work for somebody else on the side?
So working for a boss was not that was not a category for me in my head to select what my career was going to be. I essentially looked at, so I kind of divided my lifespan in a particular way, like from 20 to 30, I'm going to experiment a lot of things. I'm going to try out different things and see, which ones are awesome, which ones would I feel in, and stuff like that. So that was the initial motivation for me to kind of explore. It started off as an exploration, but I think being an entrepreneur, you get that as a byproduct where you become your own boss, so to speak, but you still have a lot of people that you will feel that you're answerable to. So there would be clients where you're picked up work from. There would be potential investors who have invested, in your business. There are advisors who would be reaching out to you and probably asking those difficult questions like, how do you plan to grow this, and things like that. So I think being your own boss is more about taking responsibility of the risks that you've decided to take, and the risk or the reward, everything is yours. There's a lot of independence in that process. There's a lot of every day could be a weekend when you're running a business, but at the same time, every day could be a Monday when you're running a business. So that's how I look at it.
From what I am personally aware of, you did have I'm not sure whether it was a conventional sort of a setup, but you did have a brief stint with Google. What was that like? Anything different from running Gaia?
Yes, yes. So when I had an opportunity to work on a couple of across a couple of roles at Google. It started off as taking care of so Google has a philanthropic arm called Google.org. I kind of ended up working as the country program manager for Google.org, taking care of the different philanthropic contributions that .org had made in India. So I kind of looked at that portfolio specifically in with organizations who were creating a lot of content. So that was my one part of my role at Google. Then I also got to work on a very interesting product called Google Read Along. That kind of that leverages Google's AI and help children learn how to read through a reading buddy called Dia. So in that role, I got to work with a lot of organizations across the globe, across different emerging economies like the APAC, LATAM, SSA. So a lot of different countries like Nigeria, Kenya. I got to visit a lot of these countries and got to work with lots of organizations over there to try and figure out how to make this kind of a product freely accessible to the children that we're planning to work with. And I think what I learned from that was essentially like a lot of education related problems. They follow a very similar pattern. I mean, problems are very similar in nature across the emerging economies. I think whenever one needs to find some solution or they plan to design a solution, and they need to keep in mind how they plan to kind of scale that up across different similar geographies and economic landscapes across the globe. I think that was my insight while working across these two projects with Google.
I had no idea what you were doing at Google. I just assumed that for us it was Google is working at Google. We just did not know.
I know. There were a lot of people who used to ask me like, your nickname is Google. Is that because you were? I said no. I was named after something else when I was born, and my nani, my maternal grandmother, so she gave me this particular nickname based on the word Google, which is essentially the numeral, which said that you will have endless name and fame and wealth and blah and blah. So that's how that name came about. But eventually, Bengal saw, I think, a child detective as a television series that came up, who was called Gogol. And then, of course, people started calling me Gogol. And eventually, I was like, yeah, Gogol sounds equally okay, so I'm fine. And in any which way, Bengal has a lot of influence when it comes to Russian literature. So Gogol kind of stuck.
Yeah, but I think the world knows about Gogol because of Jhumpa Lahiri's book, The Namesake.
Yeah. Also, way later.
Yes, way later. We were in college, I think, when that book came out. Okay, my next question to you. We were talking very recently about entrepreneurs, different businesses, and you told me I started a clothing ka business and it took off, and then I stopped it. I was like, hey? So, and then you told me I like doing all these things. I like dabbling in different things. So I was not aware of that. So how does that work? How does that come about? You just wake up with an idea that, today I'm going to try this.
No, it's very interesting that you asked this question. So see, I have a couple of industries in my head that I feel that I need to learn more about. So that's again the trigger point that I have. It's very, very learner's approach, kind of a mindset that I take in by looking at different business opportunities. So I always wanted to understand, what happens in the textile industry. How do you work around these things? And at this stage in my career, I did not see myself working at a clothing company to start off with. So I said that let's start something and see where that kind of goes and lands up. So that's how I kind of started exploring and started this clothing line called Aura, AURA, and I started this off by getting a lot of ethnic clothing for women, essentially, and decided to launch it right before the last Durga Puja in Calcutta. Learned a lot through the entire process. Where do you get your clothes from? How do you kind of get those stitched? Understanding the entire supply chain of it. Making sure that these things get sold because you've kind of invested your time and money in the process. Essentially, it has to be a sustainable business. So I wanted to understand, not by setting up a store or shop or anything, but it would be essentially if I can sell, say for example, 200 units of this particular first batch of products that I have within the friends and family circle that I have, or the first 2 or 3 core circles, if I can roll this stock at least 2 to 3 times, that would give me confidence enough to people want this kind of clothing. I'm getting the pricing right, I'm getting the quality right, and once that kind of starts working out, I can probably think about taking a store, investing more in marketing or branding and things like that. But till then, I think the foundation of any business is essentially, are you able to sell or add value while you're selling a particular product or service? So I think for me that was very, very important. And so I kind of missed my timeline while launching the product last year. So I kind of ended up having a lot more inventory that I couldn't sell. So, and then the entire pandemic hit over the last couple of months, and I was like, okay, let's put it on hold, this thing, because people are not going to visit the place anymore right now, and come and see and sit and check the clothes and kind of buy from that. So this is also the time when I'm also looking at creating probably the e-retail model, while I create some kind of a portal where people can at least check the catalog, if not order from there. So that's phase 2 probably, but it's a learning process. Again, I love the industry. I want to learn more about it. So trial and error. Let's see where this lands.
Sounds very interesting. I started a new business. Oh, great. I'm struggling with one. You've started a new business. Which brings me to...
It sounds cool. That's it.
It's a lot of hard work. I know that. People only look at the success and they tell you, oh my god, you are so lucky. People do not look at the tens and thousands of hours you've put in. Like for this, for example, people ask me, so who's editing your video? Who's putting out the content? I am doing everything. Do you think I can afford a paid labor? No. It just started
so absolutely. So that's the thing, right? So there's no specific working hours when you're working for your business. Like I said, you can believe that every day is a Sunday, but the moment you decide that, oh no, today I need to work, it feels like 10 Mondays are hitting you at the same time. It's like, goodness, the list of work that I have to finish, it's just crazy. So your risk, your reward, however you want to. I think the journey is really interesting when you're an entrepreneur. The outcome is just a byproduct. You never know where that's gonna head towards. So I think the journey is fun.
That it is. Speaking of businesses, so we have been collaborating because of Buzz Magazine, which is a magazine that I started when I was still an MPhil student around 2014, and it keeps getting pulled out of revival, and it keeps going down, probably because I don't have the time or the energy to sustain it constantly. But Goal is the person who's the art person for Buzz Magazine. And we keep collaborating and we keep thinking about how do I engage my audience with artwork. So I want to ask you, how has that journey been like with me? And especially because you say yes to whatever ideas I come up with. Like, let's do a cartoon series. Let's do PNG images. How has that been?
So I think, to be very honest, Anisha, today on the call, I must admit that you as a collaborator or a partner has been one of the most exciting part of my entrepreneurial journey, no doubt. So I've thoroughly enjoyed working with you. I still do, and I wish to work more with you. So more power to Buzz and you. I think the journey overall has been so we have seen a lot in terms of how Buzz went from different versions to versions and eventually be where it is right now. So I think as a fellow entrepreneur, I think I am extremely respectful of the journey that you have taken, and send all my positive vibes to the entity. My journey personally has been extremely creative. Whenever we start working together, it has never been like um, you're not very one of those people who would be like, I want exactly like this and nothing else, and you do not put a boundary around the creativity. So you kind of give space and room to explore what creative work might come up from someone else's brain. So yeah, and I've been very happy, and I wish to work more with you on this.
Yeah, it makes me happy because we recently released the cartoons that we made, the one panel ones, and they were a hit. But we released 2 of them. We are going to release more.
I showed them to a lot of people, and when they came across those images on Insta, they were like, I so want a pillow cover out of this. I said, do you want a pillow cover out of this? I mean, like cushion cover out of only the image or also the content? And the person is like, no, both. It makes sense when you have both. So that's where you understand that the collaboration is working, where you have a kick-ass content, but at the same time you have some really nice illustrations around it. So it works out. So I think good days are ahead. Let's see.
I'll say we could actually be onto something, because I had showed it to a lot of my friends as well, and they were like, these are so cute. When are you going to put them on a mug? Why is the mug the go-to thing everybody wants? But I'll look into it.
Because everybody wants to come to Chai and Chill, Papa. They want to get that mug and they're like, hey, I want to be on Chai and Chill.
What about your staff? What has their journey been like with Gaia Studios?
So crazy amount of people we have worked with over the last 4 to 5 years now. So yeah, they have also seen the organization grow bit by bit. They have seen the bad days, they have seen the good days. It's essentially a mixture of emotions, I think. If you ask any of them, and it's same as mine. It's a mix of emotions. They've seen, when you have an influx of a lot of work coming in, then something like COVID hitting, and how do you work remotely when design is an extremely collaborative process. You sit together, you brainstorm, you kind of sketch it out a bit, you figure out where to go from here. So a lot of learning, I think, during this particular phase for the entire team. But essentially what matters right now, I think, is the kind of work that we have committed ourselves to, the commitments that we have on ground with the clients that we're working with. That is kind of paramount as of now. So all of us are working towards delivering those within those deadlines and trying to figure out if something like, so now at least we are prepared for in the next 10 years, if something like COVID or a global calamity kind of struck, we would be probably more equipped to deal with it at that point. So let's see.
Okay. Penultimate question. Okay, I know it was your love for design that propelled you into the world of starting Gaia Studios in the first place. And you do design because you are the one who's designing all the artwork for us. So did starting a business take you away from designing, or do you get no time now to invest in design?
So it's a very personal question. So before starting off a design business, for me, art and design was kind of a release, right? It was like, I'm stressed in life, I'm tired in life, I would pick up something and draw something like this, right? So this was my release. But when you build a business around something like this, it's essentially becomes your work. So your brain kind of gets confused, like what's your release and what's your work? How do you look at stress, and how do you kind of look at stress buster? I have blurred the line, so my brain kind of tried to fight it for quite some time. I didn't feel like sitting and drawing at all because it felt like I had to deliver something. So that was a difficult journey, but eventually I think I figured out a way to tell my brain that So there were very few. So I'll tell you honestly what happened. So lot of our clients, most of our clients would ask for digital painting, right? So I would see digital painting as my core work, right? That's the service that we are providing. And then I would go to more traditional medium with oil and other things as my release. So I divided the medium as part of my, that's my, if I have to get stress out of a deadline that I have to meet, that would be the digital art piece. But if I'm looking at my solace and my peace and my kind of stress buster, I would look at, traditional art medium as my stress release. So I think I'm still struggling with it, but I found my zone. I think if I really want a stress buster, I would get a large canvas, a bundle of paint, and I would sit on it for weeks to kind of finish it. And sometimes I start off with something else and end up painting something else. Honestly, it just comes out. This one that you see behind me had to be. I don't even remember what it had to be. I think it had some space theme that I wanted to do, but eventually I changed it in the middle, and this became a normal flower and some background. This is impasto, by the way, with palette knife. But yeah, essentially that's what I ended up doing. So that's how I think it has been when it comes to this particular journey.
But I am so happy to see that you are still dabbling in the actual drawing and everything, for lack of a better word, instead of the digital thing. So
I am doing. I have I can right now, as I'm speaking to you, I can see 1, 2, 3, and 4 paintings in my drawing space that I have all over the wall. Sometimes my wife is like, "Can we have something else as well?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely, we can."
I still have, it was not a painting, it was a picture that you took and then you edited it. I still have that. You gave it to me on my birthday. It's still there on my childhood bedroom back in Calcutta. Still hanging there. It was, you named that thing Feeling Blue. I'll send you a picture of it because I still have that. It was a leaf, I think, which was blue.
Oh, yeah. I know. I remember. It was a leaf on something. I think it was a leaf that has fallen. It was a dry leaf, I think, right?
It was.
Yeah.
It was a picture of you were dabbling in photography at that point of time. It was second year of college, undergraduation. I still have. I got it framed, and you gave it to me framed, I think, and I put it on my bedroom. It's still there in my childhood.
I had this Sony Cybershot. I don't know if you remember this. You remember I dropped the Sony Cybershot from our ledge at college, and I went downstairs. I opened it, and the screen was cracked completely. I was like, how do I take this back home and show it to everyone?
Remember when you bought that camera though? You borrowed my camera because I had one. I got that, I think, for my 21st birthday. You borrowed my camera because you wanted to see whether you want to get yourself one, and then you dropped.
Probably.
Not mine, but yours.
Yeah, I broke mine, I remember.
You gave me the camera and it had a lot of very interesting shots. But I think I still have those pictures somewhere.
Yeah, I still keep a few on Facebook, I think. But yeah, I still do a lot of photography. I have developed my fondness with nature and a lot of wildlife, I think, very recently, after I got an opportunity to visit Masai Mara last year. It was it was an amazing experience, being that close to nature and wildlife. It just made life so simpler at that point. I was like, I can look at the horizon and I can see hyena, zebra, giraffe, and a rhino all together. This is nothing less than a Disney movie that I'm looking at right now, and all of this is real. So I think it kind of gave me a lot of the idea of coexisting with different species, and they have a life, and what they do, what kind of calling sounds they make, and so it's a treasure trove of things out there. So that's my recent love, and I spend most of my photography time capturing wildlife these days. You'll find me on Insta where you'll be able to see a lot of wildlife.
What is your Instagram handle? I thought it was
It's
Gogol
very
India.
funny. Yes, it is Gogol India. So yeah, GOGOLINDIA. So that's it.
Those I will link anyway in the description because I want people to go stalk you. He does amazing work.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
last question for you is: are you going to dabble in further businesses?
Right now, I don't think so. Right now, I'm going to focus on these two and see, especially where can I take Aura and from here. So, so I don't think I'm going to start anything right now. I want to see. I want to make Aura stable at some point in the next maybe couple of years, and then if I feel like exploring a new industry, I can try that out. And see. So, like I said, if I feel like learning about a new industry, I would dive in and see where that kind of goes.
That's amazing, and I wish you all the best with that. Also, sorry, bonus question: why did you name your businesses Gaia and Aura?
Why did I name Gaia and Aura? So Gaia was essentially I used to watch Captain Planet a lot. And when I was young, Earth, Fire, Wind, Water, with your powers combined, I am Captain Planet. So, I had a very nice link to it when I was a kid. I loved the concept of rings and all that had specific powers, and also like these were like normal human beings, but they had powers only on their rings. I mean, as superhero, I love Spider-Man. FYI, just a footnote. That's on top of the list, but Captain Planet had a special place in my heart as well. So when a lot of these, started thinking like, what should I name? I thought that it should start with G for sure, just because I Google. So I thought that I'll keep the name G, starting with G. And then I was like, Gaia is something that kind of puts everything together. The idea of coexistence, like I mentioned. So Gaia is the spirit, right? That kind of keeps everything together. So for my design and my kind of artwork, I imagined that all those services could try and exist together. I can build a sustainable business that provides quality artwork and design services for social impact, and we can all coexist together through these different design services that we have. So I think that was the mota idea around it, and I thought that also Gaia sounds nice. I like the sound of it, and if you see the logo, it has a very cute dino in it.
Yes.
So essentially, it's just to remind us that it is cute, but it is aggressive, but it has immense potential. So let's see. A lot of philosophy around how it is named, but yeah. But with Aura, it was a kind of a brainstorming that we were doing, like what sounds nice when I look at it. So it was, again, it had to add. So I'm a very vibe kind of a person. So if I kind of try to assess if I'm getting a positive vibe or a negative vibe out of things. So when I started doing this, I was like, I need a good vibe out of this name. So it has to be warm. It's around clothing. So I would want to be a part of this brand. So what gives me warmth? And this word just came around. I think it was just floating around, and I picked it up and I saw that Aura has a very nice ring to it, also because it carries the essence of having a vibe. So when I hear Aura, it gives me a very warm feeling around the sound of it. So I was like, okay, warmth. And also the vibe piece, let's put those together, and we have Aura. I like the sound of it, and let's see how that works out. So yeah, that's how Aura came about.
I like how people say, oh, what's in a name, but if you think about it, there's a lot going on with the name.
Absolutely. It's again, like for me, I think name gives out a lot of vibe, especially when you're building a product or a service. I think, and if you're looking for a brand name, also you need to have a very good recall factor. It shouldn't be very complicated or something. It has to be unique, but just the right amount of uniqueness, but also easy to recall. So the recall factor is essential. So I think both these names have good recall factor. So yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me on Chai and Chill. This is the season finale. We will be back, I guess.
Thank you. I feel special even more since I'm part of the finale. So thank you for making me a part of the final episode. And yeah, all the best. Looking forward to the next season. And keep creating. We will collaborate even more. And
Thanks.
you rock.
Thank you.